All right, the review for chapter 6. We start with some vocabulary, which actually is simple but confusing at the same time. Here's why. Let's talk about, before we even look at the wording over there, median. The median goes from a vertex to the middle of the opposite side. If you think about, median, middle, all right? So there's a clue word there. We know it's going to go to the middle. So number one goes from a vertex to the midpoint. So it bisects. So all those things go on with a median. It comes from a vertex. It goes to the midpoint, which bisects the other side. Altitude. An altitude also goes from the vertex, all right, and is perpendicular to the other side. Centroid, not confusing. We'll get back to that. Perpendicular bisector must be perpendicular and go to the midpoint, but it doesn't have to come from the vertex, all right? And then the angle bisector just splits the angles. That one's not that confusing. So A, a point where all medians intersect. Well, they kind of intersect in the center of the triangle. It's not the specific center, but it's kind of in the middle of the center of the triangle, inside of it. So if you think about centroid, center, if you draw all the medians, they intersect, inside the triangle. Might be a clue word for you. Now, a segment that splits an angle into two congruent triangles. That means two equal parts. That means it splits it into half. That means it is a bisector. So we have two bisectors. This is talking about angles. So we're going to come down here, number 5. All right. So centroid is A and angle bisector is B. Now, a segment that bisects the side of a triangle. Well, a perpendicular bisector does that, and so does the median. So we'll come back to that. A segment that makes a right angle. Again, the perpendicular bisector does that, but so does the altitude, right? So C and D could be 4 or 1 and 2. So it's confusing. But then we get to E, the only segment that does not have to pass through a vertex. Well, the median and altitude both come from a vertex. So that gives us E right here, which now lets us say that C goes with the median because it bisects, it goes to the midpoint, and D goes from the vertex at a right angle to the opposite side. So this is D. That's a horrible D. Let's try that again. Even for me, that was a bad D. All right, median is C, and then this is E. All right, moving on. Find the missing variables. Now, this is one of those ones where I suggest not having the screen mess up. I suggest making the right angle here, okay? And you see we have the right angle symbol here, so we're going to put a right angle here, and we know these two sides are equal. So it's an isosceles right triangle. And then I have this triangle here, which we know has 60 degrees up here. This one has 45 right here. Okay, that comes from right there. We know that these two sides are equal, so it's at least isosceles. We don't know anything else yet. Okay, so we're trying to find M, N, and P. Now remember, when we have isosceles triangles, or at least isosceles, we know we can go and say that these angles are going to be equal. That means M down here must be also 45. Not to mention, if you take 180 minus 90 minus 45, you're left with 45. Okay? So that's 45 right over here. Okay? Also, those two are equal. Now, if those two are equal, we do the old trick where we say, well, we have 180 degrees in a triangle. We've used up 60 right here. That leaves us 120. So we have to split it up evenly. That means this is 60 and this is 60, which means it's not isosceles, it's actually equilateral. Okay, so those are all the same. Now, if this is 60 and this part down here is 45, what does that leave us? That leaves 15 degrees for n. 45 plus 15 equals 60. I just left my head completely. Now, we talked about earlier that we knew this is a right angle here. We know that this is 60 because we just moved that over from here. So 60 plus what makes 90? That makes that 30 degrees right there. So even for me, I have trouble doing this one without separating the drawings. So I would suggest you do that if there's one like that on the test. All right, draw each picture and solve for what's asked. So WS is an angle bisector of WAV. So just make a triangle, put the WAV anywhere you want. It does not matter. All right. WS is an angle bisector. That means I'm coming from W, all right, and I'm going this way, and this are now equal because I bisected angle W. And this is S right here. So the measure of AWS is 3x plus 19. So this is one of those times where I'm going to write outside, but it's not a side. I'm going to put an arrow in there because there's just not a lot of space there. And VWS, I don't know why I did that. I wrote WAW, WAV. So VWS, which is this one right here, is 5x plus 1. Again, I'm marking that inside for the angle. Now, if it's a bisected angle, those two are equal to each other. So I just write 5x plus 1 is equal to 3x plus 19, and I solve. So I'm going to subtract 3x to get my x's on the left side. I'm going to subtract 1 to get my numbers on the right side. That's bye-bye, that's bye-bye. That gives me 2x equals 18. And if I divide by 2, I get x equals 9. Now notice though, it says solve for x and AWV. Now pay attention, AWV is the entire angle. So I need to plug in 9 to either here or here and double it, or both of them and add them together. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to do this one in my head because it's easiest. 9 times 5 is 45, plus 1 is 46. So this angle here is 46, this angle here is 46. So angle AWV is 92 degrees. Now, does it matter that I did not draw a triangle that looks like close to a right angle? No, it does not. We did not know ahead of time. We're just trying to get the concept. It doesn't matter. All right, BOY. So I'm going to just draw a triangle, and I'm going to go, let's say this time I'm going to do BOY this way. Doesn't matter which order you go. BZ is a median. So median, think middle. That means it's going to start at B and go to the opposite side and hit the midpoint. So here's BZ. That means this and this are equal. Now, it's telling me that YZ is 8x plus 6. 8x plus 6. All right? And it's telling me that YO, now careful, YO is 28. YO is the entire length from here to here. So think about it. If YZ is 8x plus 6, that means this is also 8x plus 6. And this plus this equals this. You got to be careful whether they give you OZ or YO on these types of problems, okay? Because if I gave you OZ, you would set them equal to each other. But if you have the entire thing, you need to say 8x plus 6 plus 8x plus 6 equals 28. Or you could save a little time and go, you know what? I know I have 8x plus 6, and I have 2 of them, so I can do multiplication. It doesn't matter. You're going to get the same answer on the second line. It's just how you want to write it. So I'm going to get on either way, so I really don't need a dividing line here. It's the same second step. Either way, I'm going to get 2 times 8 is 16, or 8 plus 8 is 16x. 6 and 6 is 12. 2 times 6 is 12, equals 28. Now, I don't have a lot of room, so I'm not going to show the work. I'm going to minus 12 and get 16x equals 16. X is 1. Now, it says find the value of x, yz, and oz, because we already know oy. So here's x. There's one of my answers. I need to plug in a 1 right here, which I can do in my head easily. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 6 is 14. So YZ is 14, OZ is 14, and just to check, 14 plus 14 does equal 28. I did everything correct. In MIT, so MIT, it says MO is an altitude. That means this drops down at 90 degrees. It doesn't mean it's a bisector. Okay? In fact, if you already drew it, don't worry about it, but I'm going to make it kind of like that. You don't have to redraw it because it won't matter. But I just want to show you the important thing is it comes down at a right angle. Okay? It is not necessarily a bisector. It's just the important thing about an altitude is 90 degrees. So that's MO right there. It says angle IOM, which is the right angle, is 3 times x plus 15. Notice parentheses. So 3 times x plus 15, we know, is 90 degrees because an altitude is a 90 degree, it's a perpendicular line. So now I'm going to distribute my 3 and get 3x plus 45 equals 90. I'm going to subtract 45 from both sides and get 3x, well, that's 45. Now I'm going to divide by 3. X is 15. Well, I already found x, and IOM, that's kind of an obvious answer. The measure of IOM, angle IOM, is 90 degrees. We kind of said that in our equation. Moving on. All right, find the missing variables in each problem. Okay, here's what we need to look at in this problem here. Notice how this and this are equal, and this are equal. That means this is a midpoint and this is a midpoint. All right, so RS is a mid-segment. Now there's 2 things about mid-segments. RS is parallel to WT, so we don't have to do this, but I'm just going to put little triangles to remind us they're parallel. Also, this is half of this. Now there's 2 ways to write this problem. Okay? Actually, there's 3 ways. And I'm going to do it on another piece of paper or just a new screen just so you can kind of see. There's 3 ways to do this problem. You can write it out as you say it. Okay? X plus 14 is half of x plus 21. Now, sometimes this is an okay problem to do. Being that this is an odd number and you're taking half of it and you're going to get a decimal, it makes it a little more challenging. I probably wouldn't do it that way. But you can. If it was x plus 22, this would be very easy. Okay? So that is one way. The median is half of the side. Okay? You're literally writing it as you say it. Another way to write it is if the median is half the side, it takes 2 of these to equal the side. And like we did on the previous problem, same thing, just written differently. I could just say 2 of these equals the side. Doesn't really matter. So the 2 on the right are the same problem. Again, I'll just get rid of the median here. Those are the same problem, just written differently. And I would suggest doing it that way. Okay? The only time the first column is a good way to go is if there's, the numbers over here are all even. So when you distribute the 1/2, you have no decimals. All right? So I get 2x plus 28 equals x plus 21. I'm going to subtract x from both sides. I'm going to subtract 28 from both sides. And this might freak you out right here, but it's okay. We get an answer of x equals -7. And you think, wait a minute. Can't do that because we can't have a negative measurement. Well, we don't have a negative measurement. We just have x is -7. When we plug that back in to RS, all right, x plus 14, that means RS is 7, and 21 minus 7, 21 plus -7 is 14, and yes, 7 is half of 14. It works out. So x is -7 here. Now just go back real quickly to show it would work out. X plus 14 equals 1/2 x plus, I'm just going to use decimals here, 11.5. Sorry, 10.5. Now, I'm going to subtract 1/2 x, which will give me 1/2 x. I'm going to subtract 14, which is going to give me 3.5. And then to get rid of the 1/2, I would multiply 2 on both sides, and I would get, sorry, it's -3.5. I would get -7 still. But I wouldn't suggest doing that way. I just want to show you that it would work out. And if the numbers were even, that method does work pretty easily. All right, so on number 11, kind of the same thing here. We see the equal sides, J and K are midpoints, so JK is a median. So again, I wouldn't use that first method because of the 3 there. So it takes 2 of these to equal this piece. And just for space, I just wrote the shorthand. You could have written 2x plus 2x. It's still going to lead you to 4x equals 3x plus 6. Subtract 3x, you get 6. And that's all we have to do is find the missing variable. But if you want to plug it in to check, which I always suggest is a good idea, 2 times 6 is 12. 3 times 6 is 18, plus 6 is 24. And yes, 12 is half of 24. So though you don't have to, checking your answer is a good idea. All right. So we have medians all over the place. I'm sorry, mid-segments all over the place. So if you think about it, this segment right here is parallel to this segment. It's also a mid-segment, so it's half of it. So if this is 5, that means x is 10. All right? Then we have this side of 14, which is parallel to this mid-segment right here. The mid-segment is half of that. That means this mid-segment is 7. Okay? Now, number 13, we have that special relationship here. Okay? So, we have a few different letters to do. We have an A, a B, and a C, alphabetical. Okay? So, if this whole side, CE, is 10, and DE is equal to CD, that means A is 5. There's already enough written up there, so I'm just going to write it down here. A is 5. Okay? Now, we have this segment right here, and we have the longer segment being 8. Well, the shorter segment is half of that, so that makes B equal to 4. And then 4 plus 8 is 12, and you can check, yes, 4 is 1/3 of 12, 8 is 2/3 of 12, it works out. And then C is dealing with this segment here, in which case we have the shorter piece, 1, and to get C, we just double it, and C is 2. If you add 2 and 1 together, you get 3. The shorter segment is 1/3 of 3. The bigger segment is 2/3 of 3. So it all works out. All right, graph this triangle with vertices 2, 9. So 2, 9 right up here. Notice normally our graphs go to 12. These go to 10. This one's goes to 12. We have -8, 1 right there. And we have 3, -4. Do my best here to make some pretty straight lines. Ruler's always good. Can't use a ruler on here. So there you go. There's my M, N, P. It says find the midpoint of MN. Okay. So to find the midpoint of MN, we're going to add the x's and y's together and divide by 2. All right. So I'm going to get 2 plus -8 divided by 2 and 9 plus 1 divided by 2. So -8 and 2, that's -6 divided by 2 is -3. 9 plus 1 is 10 divided by 2 is 5. So -3, 5 is my midpoint. I actually do a pretty straight line because that ended up right on there. And then it says draw the median from P. So that just means connect P and that point right there. Okay, that's my median. Now it says find the slope of the median from P to MN. Well, you have 2 ways of doing that. You can actually do y minus y and n minus n. Y minus y over x minus x. Okay, change in y over change in x. Or you could literally just count. Okay, you can count down and right. So you know it's a negative slope. So if I count it down, I'm going to count down, well, I'm starting up here at 5, so I want to go 5, and then 4 more, so that's -9, over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which reduces to -3/2. And again, if you're comfortable with doing the math, you could have done, we're doing P, this point and P, so 5 minus -4 over -3 minus 3, and that would have given me 9 over -6, which is the same thing, just the negative, where the negative is. And that would have reduced also. So you can see you can do it either way. Personally, I think counting is just going to be easier, but if you like doing the formula, go ahead. But remember, it's a negative slope. You should get a negative slope. Before you even do anything, count or math, you should say, hey, well, I'm writing my name on it, and it's going downhill, so it's negative. Write the equation for the median in point slope form. Okay? Well, we have our M, -3 over 2, and we have a point. We have 2 points to use. We have -3, 5. We also have 3, -4. Now remember, the equation point slope form looks like this. Y minus y equals m times x minus x. So you can actually do this with either one of the points. I'm going to do both just to show you. Neither point is better because you're going to have a double negative no matter which way you go. So here we go. I'm going to scoot over here to do this. So I'm going to use the first point first, negative 3, 5. So y minus my y, which is 5, equals negative 3 halves times x minus, now remember, my x is actually negative 3, so I put negative 3 there. And if I want to clean that up, y minus 5 equals negative 3 halves times x plus 3. If I want to use the other point, y minus negative 4 equals negative 3 halves x minus 3. Once again, I'm going to clean it up first. Get y plus 4 equals negative 3 halves times x minus 3. Yeah, they're different looking, but they're the same thing because point slope form uses points. So it could be different, right? If we multiply the negative 3 halves and move the 4 and negative 4 over, we'd have slope intercept form and they would match. All right, find the coordinates of centroid. That's really easy. Remember, that's just x plus x divided by 3 and y plus y divided by 3. It's kind of like the midpoint, except we're using 3 points. So in this case, my x's are going to be 2 plus negative 8 plus 3 divided by 3. And then my y's are 9 plus 1 plus negative 4 divided by 3. So 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 minus 8 is negative 3 over 3. 9 plus 1 is 10. Minus 4 is 6 over 3. This is negative 1 and 2. And let's just go up and see if that looks about right. Negative 1 and 2 is going to be right there where my median already, my median already goes through. So that's a good sign. So I'm not going to do it technically, but if I do it from here to the midpoint here and here to the midpoint there, right, you would see my centroid right there in the triangle. All right, next page. There's a lot on this one. All right, here's all these great formulas you need. We've already used some of them. Find the slope of the line and the slope of the line parallel and perpendicular to it. All right, so first, we're just going to do the slope. So slope is right here. So I'm going to do y, and if it helps, label xy, xy. So 3 minus 5. So I'm going this direction, which means I need to do 8 minus negative 3. Yes, I have a double negative. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. 8 minus a negative 3 means 8 plus 3, which is 11. So my slope is negative 2 over 11. A parallel line has the exact same slope. Perpendicular has opposite reciprocal. You don't have to put the plus sign. I'm just kind of modeling, reminding you that it's opposites. Okay, number 16. Well, first off, we need to just graph this triangle. So let's do that. We have 2, 3 right there. We have 8, negative 3. And we have negative 4, 0. So we have A, B, C. Now it says graph the perpendicular bisector to side AB. That's this line right there. To do that, okay, to be perpendicular, we need to have the slope of AB. Okay, so I'm just going to count down and over. So if I count down, I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my slope is negative 6, and I'm going right 5. That means my perpendicular line must be, the perpendicular slope must be 5 over 6, a positive slope. Which makes sense because it would be coming up like that. Something like that. That's just a rough sketch, but you would see that's a positive slope. Now, we also need the midpoint of AB. All right. So the midpoint of AB, we're just going to add the x's and divide by 2. So 2 plus 8, I don't know why I just wrote that. 2 plus 8 divided by 2. And 3 plus negative 3 divided by 2. 8 plus 2 is 5. 10 divided by 2 is 5. I got ahead of myself. 3 minus 3 is 0. Divided by anything is 0. So my midpoint is right here at 5, 0. So to graph the perpendicular bisector, I'm going to go up 5, right 6. So that's going to be at up 5 and right 6 would be at 11 right here. I can also go down 5, left 6 right there. And then I'm going to definitely use a straight edge here to connect those 3 dots. And then I can go back in and just put perpendicular. So I've graphed the perpendicular bisector, which was the first thing it said to do in the instructions. Okay. So find the slope, which we already did. So negative 6 over 5. Find the opposite reciprocal slope, 5 over 6. Graph the midpoint and follow the new slope. We've done that. Write the equation in point slope form. So they want the equation of this line right here. So we have a point and we have a slope. So the point is 5, 0. And the slope is 5, 6. So we just do y minus 0 equals 5, 6 times x minus 5. And if we wanted to, we could just say y equals 5, 6, x minus 5. Your choice. Okay, graph the altitude to QR. So the vertices are 1, 1, 2, negative 8. I'm getting dashes instead of circles, dots. And then 8, negative 3. So my points are Q, R. No, R is down here. Sorry. And then S. Okay. Now it says find the slope of QR. Okay. So I'm going from Q to R. Again, I can do y minus y over x minus x, or I can simply count. And it's going down 9 and right 1. So down 9, right 1, or just negative 9. Either way. Find the opposite and reciprocal slope. So opposite of negative is positive, and 9 over 1 gives us 1 over 9. Start at S and follow that slope to graph 1/9. So if I go up 1 and right 9, I'm going to be off the grid. But this is the same thing as down 1 and left 9. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go down 1 and left 9. And then it says start at S and follow that slope, which I just did. I'm going to draw my line nice and straight here. Okay. And I've just drawn the altitude, which means I can put this little right angle mark in there. Okay. Write the equation in point slope form. So again, we're going with S, which is 8, -3. And a slope of 1 over 9. So y minus -3 equals 1 over 9 times x minus 8. And if I want to clean it up, you don't have to. Y plus 3 equals 1/9 x minus 8. Your choice. Either one's right. Moving on. We're almost done. All right, now we're finding the median and graphing the median. So 0, -3. Right there. That's T. U, 1, -7. Down here. And V is 8, -1. There's my triangle. All right. It says find the midpoint of TV. All right, so the midpoint of TV is halfway between here and here. So we're going to do 0 plus 8 divided by 2 and -3 plus -1 divided by 2. 8 plus 0 is 8 divided by 2 is 4. And -3 and -1 is -4 divided by 2 is -2. So that's going to give me a midpoint of 4, -2, which I actually hit. So proud of myself. It says find the slope between U and the midpoint, and then connect them. So I'm just going to connect them first. All right. So find the midpoint. I'm just going to count between the two. So from U, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and write 1, 2, 3. All right, well, the midpoint is at 4, -2, with a slope of 5/3. So y minus y equals m times x minus x. And if I want to clean it up, don't have to. Y plus 2 equals 5/3 times x minus 4. Last two. Solve for x so that VP is an angle bisector, which means we want this and this to be equal. So angle 2, right here, I'm going to draw my arrow, is 7x minus 1. TVU, that means also then, if that's 7x minus 1, this is 7x minus 1. The overarching size of TVU is 12x plus 10. So I must say 7x minus 1 plus 7x minus 1, or simply 2 times 7x minus 1 equals 12x plus 10. You've got to remember that there's two angles there. You've got to make equal to the 12x plus 10. And you got to pay attention what they give you. If they would have said angle 2 was 7x minus 1 and angle 1 was 5x plus 15, you would just set them equal to each other. But this time they give you one of the angles and the overarching angle. And you got to remember the two angles are the same in this case. So that's going to give me 14x minus 2 equals 12x plus 10. I'm going to subtract 12x and get my letters on the left side, which will remain positive. I'm going to add 2, get my numbers on the right side. Those cancel. I end up with 2x equals, that was plus 2, not minus 12. So 10 plus 2 is 12, and divide by 2, x is 6. And that's all I wanted us to do is find x. Now, I could plug x in everywhere and find out if it works, and it would. Number 21, solve for y so that GW is a perpendicular bisector. All right, remember, if you have a perpendicular bisector, any point on this line makes 2 equal segments. So these are also equal to each other. So 3y plus 9 equals 5y minus 7. This time I'm going to subtract the 3y to this side to keep my y's positive, which means I'm going to add 7 over here. That's going to give me 16 equals 5 minus 3 is 2. And when I divide by 2, I get y equals 8. And that's all it wanted me to do, was find y. And we are finally finished.